As usual, Miguel, you are first. Kami John, I love you. And yes, I know we're freaking late, Kami John, and you can put the fucking like nail painting meme or whatever it is in there. It wasn't me this time. It was Andrew all the way, I swear. So tonight we have a gentleman. Well, I'm being presumptuous. He's a gentleman.
You can presume that, yeah.
Oh, okay, good. He is from the podcast Move Left Idiots. And we shall call him Comrade Dracula because that's what his partner Anthony calls him on the show. So do you want to do like a quick introduction, like what your podcast is about?
We started out. I didn't start the show. Anthony did, my co-host, and it was like just him his first few episodes, and then he had another co-host, and then I kind of came on as a guest. I bullied my way onto the show, and then from the first time I ever guested, they had me on every single week since then. His old co-host left, so I've been on the show ever since. It's been like 4 or 5 years now, so. We only do it like once a week. Occasionally we'll skip a week if something comes up, but you can find us at Move Left Pod on Twitter. Shows are on SoundCloud and on Apple Music, whatever it's called. I never go on there, so I don't know what it's called. But I currently have a broken collarbone, which is the most excruciating. I've never had a broken bone before, and then literally 5 weeks ago on my birthday, I broke my first bone. I broke my collarbone. Crashed my bike. Got rushed to the ER. It's awful. It's my right arm too. So like, it's fun to learn all the things you don't know how to do when you suddenly don't have your dominant hand to do things, right?
Yeah.
So,
that's funny.
What's that?
We've got similar birthdays. It sounds like you said your birthday was 5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Got it.
So roughly. It was like, I guess 4 hours before my birthday, but I was in the ER for like 6 hours waiting. I had blood pouring down my head too, and I didn't know how bad I looked, so I took a picture of it, but the ER was full of people. Wow. So I knew it was going to be a long time, and there was people that had been there, not even as long as me, going up complaining to the reception desk saying, I've been here, 2 hours, and that guy sitting there with the blood on his head has been there longer than me. Like, what is it? So people were pointing me out as an example of like I definitely looked worse than anybody else there visually. I broke my collarbone, cracked my skull really hard. Onlookers were like, "You need an ambulance." So I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, "No, you do. Trust me." So thankfully, some strangers got me there because I was just stunned. Like I couldn't tell what was wrong with me. I couldn't move my arm. I didn't feel any pain yet, but. So I've got about another, I guess, month and a half of recovery, they tell me. So, very painful at this point. But they gave me some oxys and some, acetaminophen, but it's like prescription strength. So whatever, it's fine.
That sounds painful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm glad you're on the mend at least. Yeah. And we're glad to have you tonight. I see. If you see any comments or questions in the chat, please feel free to say, "Hey, Joy, shut up. I want to answer this question." I can't see them because of my blindness, but Andrew reads some here and there. But yeah, before we get started tonight, guys, I do want to say a few announcements. Number one, I don't know if you saw, but this will be my third summer with March for Medicare for All. I've usually been doing our events in DC. This year, I have decided that I will be doing a rally in East Palestine, Ohio. I've never been to Ohio, so this has been, a process trying to, reach out to people and things like that. But I just felt like I had to go there. It just has to be there. I'm really sick of doing shit in DC and being surrounded by people who just honestly don't give a fuck. So I'm going there. I've met some wonderful people on the show who have come on as guests from East Palestine, and I'll be doing their summit, the United for East Palestine Summit, which is Saturday at 5 p.m. I'll be giving a speech as well as 2 of our teammates at March for Medicare for All. That's the first thing. Oh, and it's July 22nd. It's a Saturday. The second thing is today is 4 years. Julian has been in Belmarsh 4 fucking years. So, and I know I talk about him all the time, but it's imperative. Whatever you are passionate about, you should be passionate about Julian, because we are not going to learn anything about corruption in any regard if Julian is extradited. So Rashida Tlaib, don't get me started. You guys know I've met with her in person. I recently, a few months ago, met with her in Zoom. I have a lot of issues with her. I've never held back with her. But today she came out with a letter which she presented to AG Garland. And will it do anything? I don't know. Is it too little too late? Probably. I don't know why the fuck she waited 4 years. But I mean, better late than never. I don't fucking know. But at least someone in Biden's ear is speaking the fuck up about it. I don't know. All I know is I'm scared. We all know what's gonna happen if he's extradited. So much love to Stella and the boys. And then also I have a personal announcement. Andrew, can you show the picture? So a family friend of myself and my husband's has gone missing. And her name is McKenna Riley. She is in Lane County. Well, hopefully she's in Lane County, Portland, Oregon. She's been missing, officially declared missing, 1 week, and doesn't hang out with the best people. So she's the one in the blue on the right. That's her wonderful siblings, Michael and Bevan, who we're also friends with. They were raising money on GoFundMe to fly out unexpectedly to help search. There are 3 policemen, 3, in the area the size of the state of Connecticut. And it's all woods, it's all forest, it's all water. And there's 3 of them who are police who are saying, okay, we're going to search. So, and then, you know, my friends are like, well, let's have a search party. And they said, no, we don't have the staff to do that. So my friends have the GoFundMe because they're raising money to try and hire a search party because the police are fucking worthless. And these are, I mean, the amount of ground they have to cover to try and find McKenna is just, it's bad. So please send, you know, love and well wishes and everything to McKenna and her family. They're, you know, her mom's not doing too great, understandably, nor are her siblings. But please just keep them in mind. And I believe Andrew's going to put the GoFundMe link. They started official searches today. They did rally some people together. Unfortunately, they didn't find anything, including McKenna. Her family's fearing the worst at this point. So we just got to keep fighting. And if you can chip in a few dollars to help Beth and Michael and Tina find McKenna, I know they appreciate it very much. So thank you guys so much. So what are our topics tonight?
Well, we're going to be talking about Blackrock. We're going to be talking about the California putting a cap on gas profits for gas companies in California. We're talking a little bit about Abbott, Dick Durbin, Iowa Eternity, libraries in Texas, and yeah, we got as usual loaded amount of topics that we are going to be talking about today.
Yeah, you're usually not hearing from anyone else.
Correct. So, I guess we should start by talking about some of the protests that are going on in France. I know it's unusual. We're having Joy go first this time.
So, I know. Usually it's the white man who goes
exactly.
first.
Every once in a while, it's like, maybe the white male won't go first. I don't know.
So. So yeah. Can you share the thingy? So I wanted to show this, and not just because it's going on and it's fucking badass, but because you guys know I always compare Americans, lazy ass Americans, to people in UK and India and other countries who are like, yo, let's get in the streets, let's burn this motherfucker down. Just look at these people. Like, you look on Twitter and people will be like, yeah, here's a guillotine, let's burn this shit down. And then those of us who organize, we're like, put our heart and soul into organizing things, and these people are like on their ass. So these people are badasses. These people know how to demand something and get out there and fucking fight for it. And I just think it's fucking beautiful. I mean, look at that. The other thing you can tell, what's that?
Go ahead.
The other thing, that's beautiful about other countries is they have solidarity. All these people are there in solidarity. In our country, it's very much, don't do it like that. Don't, it would be better that way, but I'm not going to help.
Right. The megaphone police.
Yeah, essentially. So it's like, you see this camaraderie and you see this solidarity, and it's fucking beautiful. Comrade Dracula, what do you think when you see videos like this?
Well, I mean, I'm always impressed with, it seems like Paris is always rioting, which is pretty awesome. Yeah. And some people downplay that. And they're like, well, they're just always protesting, so it doesn't mean anything. It's like, but they actually get concessions for what they're doing. And
it's for different things.
Right. There's always some bullshit. There's always, some bullshit going on there. What I think is interesting about the city of Paris too is in the 1850s, they literally redesigned the entire city to make it harder for people to take over the streets and hold space, which is like to completely redevelop a city to stop rebellion was pretty amazing. And I think that's one of the problems we have here in the United States, and why shit like that doesn't happen is we did the same thing too, from like the night, after World War II, roughly, we started to suburbanize to make, the factories that used to be right in the middle of neighborhoods could easily be taken over during sit-down strikes. And so eventually they were like, well, we got to get people to move further and further away, so the supply lines between where the occupation and the strikes were happening and workers' homes was so long, and they're spending so much time commuting, that the thought of going on a mass general strike is basically impossible now in this country.
Absolutely. Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, so I think, this has been going on for what? A few weeks now? Month? They continue to be out on the street. They are not letting up. And the whole thing that sparked it was, I still find it very ironic that what sparked this was moving the retirement age from 62 to 64, I believe, which is still younger than what we have today, which is 67 now. Right, it was 65, and then it gradually moved up to 67, where you get Social Security and
and I love that, like, we're so conditioned to the idea of like working till you're too old to enjoy retirement, that like we hear that they want to keep retiring at 62. We think that's lazy or something. Or China, average age of retirement is 55. And you see articles from like Forbes magazine saying shit like, China's retirement age is 55, but at what cost? It's just like what the fuck do you want to live the rest of your life working for? Like, do you ever want to just enjoy, like all the shit you worked for finally, eventually, and not have to go to fucking grind every day?
And I think, going off of what you were saying, the propaganda here is so strong that it is not uncommon for you to just find yourself of an article of them highlighting, say, someone who's 99 years old and then being like, this person is still working. And
oh my God, all the time.
And it's like supposed to be.
Where'd we go?
Huh?
Do you guys, it looks like we disappeared off the screen.
I still see everything.
Yeah.
Maybe it's me. Okay, sorry. But yeah, they do those like, this is a heartwarming story. And it's like, no, it's not. It's fucking sad.
This 12-year-old had to get a job to pay for his own cancer treatment. Adorable.
Right.
So cute.
Or,
this person. The other day, I was like, little boy can't afford his wheelchair. So the local high school robotics team built one for him. Oh my God, it's so cute. That's so heartwarming. No, it's fucking not. Bananas.
Yeah.
So I always, whenever Blackrock is in the news, I'm always just like, oh, them again, because they're one of these giant entities where it's not even clear what the fuck they do, or what it is they actually own, or how much of different corporations they own. But basically, just a little back info on them, because I have to sometimes like look it up and remind myself like how evil they are. So Blackrock Incorporated is an American multinational investment company based in New York City, founded in 1988, initially as an enterprise risk management and fixed income institutional asset manager, whatever the fuck that means. Blackrock is the world's largest asset manager with an estimated 8.6 trillion in assets under management as of December 31st, 2022. Currently, BlackRock's portfolio is worth at least $3.18 quadrillion. Like, but at that point, it's like, is any of that money even real, or is it just fucking? Are all stocks just fucking fake money? At that point.
At that point, yeah. I mean, it's literally just numbers on a screen at that point.
Right. It's like, I'm a publicly traded company now, and I have 50 trillion pieces of things that don't exist that you can purchase for 25 cents per thing, but like none of it really exists.
Yeah.
And that's, that's why they capital has to keep trying to invent new fictional capital, because there's no more land to conquer, so you got to keep, essentially creating fictitious capital.
That is so bananas. And I remember a few weeks ago, I haven't really seen anything since, but a few weeks ago, some articles were coming out that Biden was using them to go through Ukraine for all of the money we're giving them for like no reason. Right. So that's always good. I mean, whenever someone is, shady, you can pretty much bet Biden and Hillary are BFFs. So that's good.
My personal favorite, I should say my personal favorite, my least favorite thing about BlackRock is that they own SeaWorld. So
really,
yeah, like own it outright. They don't outright own a lot of things. They own like tiny portions of things, and they, essentially they control sort of the money direction of a lot of corporations, but they only own very small portions of things. But SeaWorld they own outright.
Well, and didn't SeaWorld recently get docked for all its animal rights violations too?
Good.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's entire documentaries about all the unethical, illegal shit that SeaWorld does. Just to people, not even the fucking animals they're confining to tiny, what would be a bathtub. Imagine living in a bathtub your entire life when, like your natural range in the wild is thousands of miles.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, they're the worst.
Wow. I don't know why my screen is acting up. I'm going to exit out and come right back in a second. Andrew, you could go to the next topic, and I'll be right back in a second.
Yeah.
Try not to miss me too bad.
I'll try not to. So one thing I wanted to highlight, and this is an interesting bill. California just passed a law that caps how much profit giant gas corporations can make at the pump. And it's wildly popular. So I found this interesting because, we hear all the time, of course, in the news how, divided we are and different we are. And when it comes to this issue here, it's very fascinating to see when we're looking at this poll. So it says the share of responders who said they would support or oppose limits to the amount of profit oil and gas companies can make per gallon of gasoline. So 70% said that they would support for all voters. 79% of Democrats said they would support. Independent 66, Republican 63. And so I wanted to bring up, give me 1 second. I'm going to show this article here because it has some more additional information. Welcome back, Joy.
Actually, never left. I figured out how to do it.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Thanks for noticing, Andrew.
Yeah.
Male white privilege.
Yeah, God, so I changed the screen to look at. So at least, so I wanted to scroll down and talks a little bit about this. So California fired a shot against oil and gas companies with the passage of a law that caps the amount of profit those companies can make at the pump. We just talked about how 7 in 10 voters support this measure. And so what does this do? So following the year of record profits for oil and gas companies around the world and ahead of what could be another summer of high gasoline prices, Gavin Newsom last month signed SB X122 into law, which aims to stop price gouging at the pump. Among other things, the legislation sets a maximum gross gasoline refining margin and issues a penalty for any California-based refineries that surpass that margin. And so the industry, of course, does not like that. They're saying that this will actually cause them to have to raise it because it's like you're messing with our profit margin, even though I'm pretty sure their profits were the highest that they've ever been this past year overall. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it was something like that. Feel free to fact check me. Perhaps the most crucial part of the bill is the fact that it requires oil companies to disclose their pricing information to the State Energy Resources Conservation and Development Commission. This commission also creates a division of petroleum market oversight tasked with the power to monitor and investigate the oil market and subpoena oil company executives. And so, I mean, I have never seen any bill like, say what you will, I mean, Gavin Newsom's got a load of problems, but this, I read this and I was like, this sounds interesting and different and, could at least be a good start for holding companies accountable. I'm curious to hear, Comrade Dracula, if you want to chime in, and then we can go to Joy.
I mean, didn't Gavin Newsom approve like several hundred new liquid natural gas drilling leases just last year? Yes. Yeah. So it's kind of just it's like this thing where they talk about climate change and then do the exact opposite, and then people get mad about paying the price at the pump they do, and then they do something about that. But it's I don't see how the oil companies wouldn't take this to court. They'll do everything to fight that. But at the same time, Americans already pay less for gas at the pump than any other country in the world because of subsidies. And if we were paying out of pocket what the market value of any other country, you'd be paying like $15 per gallon, right? So it's just hilarious to me that people say, like people will buy a $57,000 giant jacked up pickup truck and then say, oh, I can't afford the gas for it. Like, really? How many garages does your fucking McMansion have on it? You can't afford the $4 a gallon for it. So I don't know. Like I think there needs to be a lot more done to radically get away from having to drive a car in the first place. I live in Chicago where 60% of the city doesn't own a car. New York City. 60%, yeah. So I was curious about the number one time, so I did the math, and I knew that the average number of cars per household and the average number of fucking math. Sorry, the oxys. Basically, yeah. So it came out to like that. Now that's not saying that every 60% doesn't drive, but it was 39% of Chicagoans own a car, right? I think New York City, it's way less in New York City. Obviously, like you couldn't have 8 million people living. It would take hundreds of square miles to park every car for 8 million people on Long Island, right? So, fortunately, Chicago has great public transit. We never killed our public transit like a lot of cities did back, when the cars were taken over in the 30s and 40s. But even still, like NASCAR is coming to Chicago for the first time ever, and it's like insane that you're gonna have NASCAR in the downtown of like the third biggest city in the country, like
downtown.
Yeah, it's gonna block off fucking downtown streets for something like 40 days to set the thing up for only 3 days of racing. It's insane.
Wow.
Yeah, and if
I love Chicago downtown. What a clusterfuck! What the fuck would they do?
The irony is they're gonna have to shut down Lakeshore Drive, which is they call it a boulevard or a drive, but really it's a 10-lane freeway, right?
Right. Yeah, my aunt lives on it.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, and if you're trying to get to the lakefront, which is, I would argue, Lake Michigan, lakefront, Chicago is like one of the greatest things about this city is you've got this basically an ocean with no sharks and no salt in it, right? Yeah. But you can't get to it without, going over or under this deafening freeway. The best time I had here was when the riots and the lockdown happened, where they shut it down for like a week, and it was like you could go to the lake and you could hear a pin drop. It was amazing. So the NASCAR is going to be partially on Lakeshore Drive, which is going to piss off so many more people than just the cycling and walking activists. It's going to piss off all the drivers too. And I mean, the biggest irony is it'll probably reduce carbon emissions because the average NASCAR race is about 120,000 pounds of CO2. And I couldn't find numbers on it, but Lakeshore Drive probably emits like something like 10 times that every day. So,
wow.
Yeah, I don't know. I as far as this thing in California, like from a consumer advocacy point of view, I get that. I appreciate that. From like a climate justice thing, like I wish gas was so expensive that like nobody ever drove a car. Sorry. That's how I feel.
It's definitely, for someone who is mostly blind and can't drive, like I wish we had, like I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We don't have subways. We don't have, I take Uber a lot because we have no like rail system that's actually good or anything. But when I go to places like Chicago and New York and stuff, I'm envious. So yeah, for sure. And you don't really need a car when you're in places like that.
Yeah, places like rail. I think that's the thing, right? Is that we are at a place where certain places like Chicago, debatable with Boston. I mean, technically, yeah, but our public transportation system is like getting worse and worse. As I posted a picture today and how unreliable it is. But yeah, we do, in terms of major cities, there is a lot of infrastructure that is there. And I think ideally creating that infrastructure all around so that people are less and less incentivized to drive a car. But kind of going back to Comrade Dracula about what you were saying, how everything, our infrastructure was set up when it comes to suburbs, right? Back when you were talking about factories, right? Like that's unfortunately takes so long to undo, where so many people are stuck with only having a car. So then the question is, how do we address that?
Yeah. Well, what's really scary too is that you've got, this huge baby boomer generation after World War II that moved into places that don't even have sidewalks, let alone buses, are all about to get to the age where they're not going to be able to drive a car anymore. And you're going to have an entire generation, the greatest generation, who are going to be shut-ins. Right, they're going to miss doctor's appointments. They're not going to be able to. They're going to be skimping on groceries because they don't feel good enough to get to the grocery store any other way.
Or they're going to have to pay for really expensive Ubers that are jacking up those
prices. Exactly. They're going to still be dependent on someone else driving for them, which has been proven to just drastically increase congestion over where it is already. So, yeah, I mean, the idea of being car addicted and being in sort of placeless suburbs that have no kind of central downtown that was a very deliberate decision that was very slowly forced onto us to the point where people didn't really think about it until it was too late. And then here we are with, the plants dying because of a fucking climate crisis. People are, we're sort of forced to become addicted to cars who can't even afford them anymore. So I understand, why people would support a bill like this. Absolutely.
Do you guys remember, and I could be the only person who even remembers this because it was like, I felt like I was the only person who covered it. But in 2020, there was the Dem House came out and said that because of pressure, they have decided they will no longer take any fossil fuel money. And we were like, oh my God, where's the asterisk?
That was 2020? I thought that was maybe 2018. Not to nip.
It could have been 2019, but it definitely it wasn't that much longer before.
It was at the beginning when the primaries were starting, I think.
Right.
Sorry.
And then 1 month and 1 day after they came out and said, yeah, we decided to kind of renege what we said. 1 month and 1 day. Probably because they got caught still taking it. That's conjecture. I don't know. But so I knew that was too good to be true. That was bananas. And let's be honest, most people don't care that they take money from big pharma and shit like that. Like, most people just don't care. So,
well, they don't even know, or they assume the Democratic Party that they love would never do something like that, or or it's like they don't even know where, like the university they went to invests its money. Just trying to divest universities from fossil fuel has been a huge task because most people don't even know that that's what the thing universities do, right? Like first time I learned that, I was like, what? That's why I don't. But everything's a money-making enterprise, higher education, everything.
Yeah. And I digress a bit, but I want to share a quick story of something that was so amazing that happened at work today. So my boss comes up to me and she goes, hey, Joy, can I see you in my office? And I go, oh, fuck. Oh, sorry. And she's like, she just starts laughing. She's like, why do you automatically think it's bad? I was like, because I know me and I'm nervous. And she's like, no, it's not bad. I was like, you're required to say that so I don't freak out before we get in the office. So anyway, I sit down and she goes, okay, Joy, so I've decided that because you do a great job, you deserve a raise. And I was like, April Fool's, okay, right, whatever. And she's like, we have to keep it between us because not everyone got one, but you deserve it. You work hard, you're disabled, and you still unload trucks nonstop, and you this and that. All right, guys, guess how much my raise is?
50 cents. Per hour.
Comrade, what do you think?
Oh, I didn't know. Sorry. 25. I'll go 25.
24 cents per hour.
24. They couldn't even round it to a fucking real number.
Right?
And your shifts are usually like 4 hours chunks, right?
Right. That's literally what I said to my boss. I was like, okay, cool. So when I go to work tomorrow, I'm going to make 96 more cents before taxes. Yes. And then I'm standing there like, unloading the truck, and I'm thinking, I'm almost insulted. Like, I almost kind of wish I didn't get that raise because it's like actually pretty fucked up.
I mean, it's at the point where it's like, just don't tell you. You probably wouldn't even notice.
I wouldn't. Because
also,
it as it is.
We'll sneakily give you $1 more per day. Not even, like you said, 96. And you'll probably just not really see the difference.
Also, telling you not to tell anybody else what you got is illegal.
Oh, really? Well,
yeah, I mean, they always tell you you're not allowed to discuss your wage with other employees. It's illegal for them to intimidate you and tell you you're not allowed to do that.
Oh, right. That makes sense.
That's federally.
Yeah, I mean,
I know that any employee is allowed to discuss their wages with other employees.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a stipulation between whether it's at the workplace you're not allowed to or whatever, but your employer is not allowed to tell you that you're not allowed to do it. That's illegal for them to tell you that you can be, fired or whatever if you discuss your wage with other employees.
That is, we do need to work on trying to change the culture around that and just being open with everybody on what we make, because that would empower so many people to realize, oh, okay, you're making
That's why every worker needs a union.
Yeah.
It's crazy though, because when she said that, I'm thinking, oh, maybe I will get a little bit because she doesn't want me to share. So, because she's like, not everybody is getting a raise. And I'm like, oh, maybe it is good. And, and then I'm like, I can't even share 24 cents. So that means other people aren't getting one and other people got less than I did.
We'll make her raise so low, she'll be embarrassed to tell anybody that she works.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Right. Vegan Succubus says, watch it put you in a higher tax bracket so it's a net negative.
Oh, God, right? Yes.
My husband said that. Yeah. Seriously. Oh, my God.
But that's exactly the kind of shit somebody gets paid to do, is figure out, how much can we pay somebody more so that we'll pay less for them.
Right. Exactly. Oh, my God. Yeah, I wanted to share how exciting that was. Oh, Here's another one. Okay, so the other day, corporate comes in on Friday, and she's like, hey, I wanted to do something fun for Easter, so I put treats and Easter eggs all around the back room. And when you unload the truck, when you put stuff away, you can see, if you find an Easter egg, you win what's in it. So I've got this kid across from me, and he's like, oh, I got a paper that says an extra 15-minute break. And then I got a girl across from me that goes, oh, shit, I got a new pair of earbuds. I find an egg. Swear to fucking Buddha. I open it. It is an imitation orange-ass Tootsie Roll. An imitation orange Tootsie Roll. It was nasty. Yeah, I fucking ate it because that was my prize. And it was nasty.
Well,
that's what my employer thinks of me. What's that say, Andrew?
It says I give them both. Vegan says I share what I got. I'm open about it always. How else are we going to help each other rise up if we aren't transparent? Yeah. So.
Yep.
What
else we got?
Yeah. So talking about Abbott pardoning the Army sergeant guilty of shooting. So go ahead, Joy. Got it pulled up.
Well, can you read it?
Sure, yeah. Less than 24 hours after a jury found an Army sergeant guilty of shooting and killing a protester, Texas Governor Greg Abbott announced that he would pardon the convicted killer as soon as the request hits my desk.
So yeah, that's fucked up for so many reasons. I was reading about this case a little bit, but just the biggest thing to me that stood out was the fact the governor says he wants to pardon somebody before he's even been sentenced and before there's been any appeal. That's clearly a political agenda.
Absolutely. This is what happens. You're a protester and you get murdered. Oh, well, I'm going to take their side every fucking time.
Oh, yeah.
And the governor keeps... Sorry.
Do you want to read a little bit of the article, Andrew?
Sure. Just give me a second to pull it up. All right.
While you're doing that, I'm going to refresh on my drink.
Go for it.
Okay. Oh, look, we're about to see an advertisement get pulled up before the actual thing. Spring flash sale. Okay, get out of here. All right. So here we go. Governor Greg Abbott announces he will push to pardon Daniel Perry after murder conviction. I have limited articles remaining. Good thing I hardly read them. Computer is screwing up. Hold up. Uh-oh. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
All right,
too.
Let's go through this. I'm back.
Abbott, all get right. Off of my computer.
Now I have to take all this. 4 hours after a jury in Austin. Close this. Goddamn. After a jury in Austin found Daniel Perry guilty of shooting to death a protester, Greg Abbott announced on social media Saturday that he would pardon the convicted killer as soon as the request hits my desk. The unprecedented effort, which Abbott announced to his 1 million followers on Twitter, came as he faced growing calls from national conservative figures such as Tucker Carlson and Kyle Rittenhouse, who was acquitted in the shooting deaths of 2 Wisconsin protesters in 2020. Like, we don't all know who he is. To act to urgently undo the conviction. Like, oh yeah, you may have heard of this random guy. Texas has one of the strongest stand-your-ground laws of self-defense that cannot be nullified by a jury or progressive district attorney, Abbott said in a statement. I will work as swiftly as Texas law allows regarding the pardon of Sergeant Perry. Yeah. Wow. You want me to keep reading, or?
No, that's good. I just wanted to give people like a synopsis of what was going on, but I think it's partly because it was a protester and partly because when you're in the service, you're like a good old boy, and the government.
I mean, the guy he killed was a vet too, so it's like, why would you automatically take the side of one veteran over another? Because one was a Black Lives Matter protester. Right. And this guy basically, he was an Uber driver. He ran a red light in order because he was so eager to plow into a crowd of protesters. Like, he clearly provoked these people by threatening them with his fucking car. Right. And then the one guy who in the crowd who was armed, who was using his gun to, tell this guy, back the fuck up. You're not going to run these people over. He gets shot.
Right. Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, clearly in this situation, the governor's choosing to side with the aggressor in this case over the victim purely for political reasons. I don't know if he'll ever run for president or what, but clearly it's just like DeSantis, makes almost every public statement based on a future political calculation.
Absolutely.
Although that's interesting, it never really struck to me, like DeSantis, obviously, but it never really struck me as Abbott as being somebody who would be thinking of having a future presidency. To me, he doesn't have quite the same vibe. He's just sort of this,
maybe not president, but maybe senator. I don't know. Possibly.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think every governor wants to be president and thinks they have a shot, no matter how much that they don't, because they have people around them telling them, "Oh yeah, you totally be great at that, sir." But yeah, the family was interviewed in one article I read, and they were like that he clearly hasn't followed this case at all. Someone just told him about it, and he said, "Oh yeah, of course I'm going to pardon this guy." Like he hasn't even been sentenced yet. And there hasn't been an appeals process yet. Like, that's like you're just getting in the way of what the courts are supposed to do.
Right.
Yeah.
It is interesting, though. I mean, we'll see if DeSantis puts his hat in the ring officially, which I'm sure he will probably change it. But it is interesting that since George Bush, governors have not had, or people who have been governors alone and have not been, senators after and such, have not had much luck when it comes to primaries.
That's true.
Side thought, but that is interesting how that shifted. But yeah,
well, I'm sure DeSantis will announce with good old Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah, probably.
She's a gem. Quite the tag team there.
Who is Marianne Wilson? Well, whatever her fucking name is. Who is she running on? Is she on a ticket for anything, or is she just entirely independent?
She is running as a Dem because she wanted to primary Biden. Actually,
there you go. Okay.
I talked to her on the phone last night.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, she called me last night to check how I was feeling and stuff after all the treatment and all that bullshit. And we were talking a lot about like the campaign and you know, just some of the ugliness, you know, behind the scenes with the Dems, which, you know, she ran before, so she was expecting. And I was kind of ranting about like how fucked we are with lack of healthcare. And you know, thankfully she is, you know, national Medicare for all. That's how we became friends. But yeah, it's interesting to have a presidential candidate call you to ask how you're doing. Yeah,
well, I mean, I think that the demonization of third party candidates or long shot mainstream candidates who are seen as outsiders is shameful. And anyone that tries to paint someone as a spoiler is shameful. You know, the fact that, like, you know, in almost every other democratic country, you've got, you know, half a dozen political parties. Nobody calls people spoilers in that situation, you know, or even in countries where there's still one main political party, like China. There's 9 other socialist parties in China who run for all sorts of things, you know, provincial municipal offices that get elected all the time. So the notion, you know, we always hear that, you know, countries we don't like are dictatorships. It's like, really? Because have you ever actually studied the way that different countries' elections and democracies and political parties function? Because like clearly people don't know. Like even in Cuba, yes, there's only one political party, but almost every election is non-municipal or non-partisan. So it's like literally you don't even have to declare that you're a member of any party to run for office for things, you know, like drain commissioner, shit like that. So it's just, you know, we're fed this nonstop narrative about, you know, the two-party system we have with big money candidates. That's democracy, and anything else other than that is somehow wrong. And I hate that shit.
Absolutely. And the thing that gets so frustrating is, like, first of all, anyone who vote shames anyone is not doesn't support democracy, period, because democracy means one person, one vote. And if I didn't vote for Biden, I didn't vote for Trump, and I'm not going to vote for Biden, and I'm not going to vote for Trump, and I don't give a flying fuck. When I went to DC and met with Ro Khanna not that long ago, he said to me, you know what, Joy? Because I said I wrote Bernie in both times. Don't get me started on him lately. But and he's like, because he asked me, and he's like, well, if Biden runs again, are you gonna vote for him? And I said, no. And he said, what if Trump's running? I said, no. Like, I'm not fighting. No, it's my fucking vote. No, I am not. So yeah, I think, you know, the people who vote shame for those who don't vote or vote third party or write people in or what have you, they're ones whose lives do not change regardless of who's in power.
That's an absolutely great point.
You know, for people like, you know, Biden is, you know, perpetuating eugenics of the poor right now. So go up to a poor person and ask them, are you excited to vote for Biden? Has he changed your life? You know, but to them, it's like, oh, the D next to it. Yeah, obviously they're better. No, they're fucking not. That was a rant, but yeah, I talk about that shit all the time. I can't stand vote shaming. Like, I would never vote for Biden in a million years, but I don't tell people not to because that's their choice. But at the same time, I don't want to be told not to vote for who I want to vote for. Actually, there was this woman I saw speak from Congo, and she said, you know, much more eloquently, but she said, you know, where I came from, we didn't have a choice who to vote for. We had no choice. We had to vote one way. That was it, period. And then I came here and I thought it was beautiful because you had so many choices. And I don't understand how people are hateful towards people because they make a choice that they don't agree with. And I thought, you know what, that's such a fucking good point, because there are some places that like you are forced to vote. There are some places that you literally have one option. And here we're supposed to have like freedom to vote for whoever we want or not vote for whoever we want. But people here are so, red versus blue. That's the only thing. There's nobody else. You can't consider anyone else. And it's like, it's a personal preference. It's nobody else has to live with your decision except you. And that's what I told Roe. And he's like, I was like, look, Roe, I knew Pennsylvania wasn't going to lose by one vote. And he goes, they could. I was like, oh my God, no, you didn't want to say that to me. Like, really? My one vote is going to cause the entire state to go to Trump.
And who did you vote for then?
I wrote in Bernie.
Yeah.
Not that I would today, but I did.
Well, I love the hatred that the Green Party gets. And it really shows how little people understand about how elections actually work, where, like the last election, the Green Party ticket didn't win a single electoral college vote, right? They haven't ever won a single electoral college vote, right? But somehow still that people think the Green Party is what handed the White House to George Bush and Trump.
Right, even though the Libertarians got more votes.
Right. Right. But even they still, I don't think, got a single electoral college vote. The votes that actually do matter.
Right. And it's like, okay, y'all were so pissed that it was like, well, she got more votes, she should have won. Where is your movement to fuck the electoral college? Where is your movement to have open primaries? Where is your movement to not like where are you fighting to change the voting system? Because it's corrupt as fuck and you're doing nothing but complaining when it hurts you. So you could have used 2016 and all your pussy hat hatred and then got some shit rolling about how everything, fuck the electoral college. It was started on racism, all this shit, but you didn't. You sat on your ass, and now you're just going to get mad when it's a hissy fit. That's all it is. It's a fucking hissy fit. Like, they should be like, the shit libs will never complain about super delegates because it always goes in their favor.
I had to explain to my mother that the Republican Party doesn't have super delegates, and she goes, "Well, I don't know about that." I'm like, "But I just told you about it." This is like, what?
Oh my God! My mom says the same thing. She goes, "I don't know about that."
Right. My mother said, "Well, the leaders of the GOP would never allow Trump to be their nominee again." I'm like, they couldn't stop him the last time, and they tried. That's the whole. that's why we keep saying like the GOP's nominating process is more democratic than the Democratic Party's nominating process.
And I think people like to make fun of Trump and stuff because it's easy. But I think, if we get someone like DeSantis, they're going to realize Trump was nothing.
Oh, yeah. Like, DeSantis is far worse.
Right.
And
and Trump's not a religious fanatic the way that these Bible thumpers really are. Like, to him, he doesn't really understand that shit. And I think that's why he didn't understand these forever wars in the Middle East, because he's not one of these, like, Christian crusaders against the Muslim world. To him, it's like, why would you want to have wars when you could throw up casinos and hotels and make money off that all over the Middle East? That's just like, not to endorse anything about the guy, but like my mother told me for 4 years, Trump's going to start World War III. And I'm just like looking at my watch, like, okay, when I don't see it happening. When is that going to happen?
When Biden comes into office.
Right. And instead, Trump goes to North Korea with fucking Dennis Rodman and like signs, basically the document ending the longest war that we sort of put on pause with North Korea. And then liberals said, "Oh, well, we didn't get anything for it." I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Didn't you used to march against wars in the street?
Right.
I mean, he did the whole Soleimani thing. I mean, Trump definitely had his war hawk moments, and basically admitted we go to war in Syria because of oil. And I think that was the thing about Trump, is that he just like he was very forthcoming with the corruption, because he didn't even know at times when it was like, you can't say that.
No, the McDonald's cheeseburger moment. Yeah, like in a way, a guy is so obsessed with optics, also like just not giving a shit about like the decorum of Washington D.C.
Right.
was my favorite thing about that presidency, and how insane it drove people who think that like Washington's supposed to look just like the West Wing, Aaron Sorkin screenplay fucking show, to see just this a guy who made money from doing world wrestling type shit come into the White House and they couldn't stop it.
Right.
I don't know. It's like I keep waiting for the moment when like Trump just like unzips his face and out comes fucking Andy Kaufman as Tony Clifton, and it's been like a gag this whole fucking time. I don't know. It seems surreal at moments that
it does.
It's going on so long.
It does. It's insane. Yeah. Andrew, do we have any more topics?
Yeah. Well, I was going to talk about this real quick because we are approaching, but I think you wanted to talk about the Iowa attorney.
Oh, yes.
And then I'll just talk about this topic real quick, and then we can do the funny and So I think this is just, I wanted to bring this up because, we talk about all the time, obviously the Republicans are terrible. And we also talk about how the Democrats enable the Republicans to be terrible through their actions as well, deciding not to fight back, or sometimes even just like quietly aiding the Republicans in what they're trying to do. And so the Senate GOP, so basically Dick Durbin is under fire for letting GOP Senate minority veto Biden judges. So there's this thing called the blue slip courtesy, which is a non-binding Senate norm that allows lawmakers to reject nominees for court seats in their home states, right? And so if Biden were to nominate some district judge, right, in federal district judge in a red state, a senator that's a Republican could basically say, nope, I do not want this person, and it's dead. The nomination is dead. And so the Republicans, of course, because it's non-binding and it's very easy to just be like, no, we're not going to have this be an obstacle. The Republicans went ahead and just shafted that during Donald Trump's 4 years. And so that enabled them to, in blue states, right, just elect or nominate federal district court judges, right? But Dick Durbin, who has the power to get rid of it, is for the Democrats is not doing that right now. And so that I just found very fascinating, because honestly, until recently, I did not know about this specific thing. But I think it just very much shows how the Democrats always they sabotage their quote unquote agenda and then blame the Republicans, when it's like, you could literally just do this and then you could elect more of your judges that you wanted.
Dick Durbin, we just had an election for mayor here in Chicago, yep. And we had a guy who was supported by the Chicago Teachers Union named Brandon Johnson. He used to be a CTU organizer, running against a guy who was endorsed by the FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police, Paul Vallis, who owns a company that goes around the country privatizing schools and trying to get around collective bargaining laws by getting legislators to pass emergency management laws like the ones that poisoned Flint, Michigan, to basically fire union teachers and hire a bunch of non-union contractors to turn public schools into privatized schools that still get subsidized by taxpayers, by the way. His name was Paul Vallis, this guy running. Dick Durbin just endorsed Paul Vallis like a week before the election. Paul Vallis, who said that he was more of a Republican than a Democrat.
Wait, he said that on the campaign? Or did
he said that on a radio show a couple of years ago, but people just pulled it up and said, like, this guy's he's a fucking Republican endorsed by the police.
What they always do in city elections. They like have these Republicans who just run as Democrats because they know they can't win.
Exactly. And that's exactly why the Fraternal Order of Police endorsed him. He wanted to increase Chicago's police force of 12,000 cops to, like, he said he wanted to hire hundreds more. And to his credit, Brandon Johnson at one point said he supports defund the police. And then, of course, when he ran for mayor, he tried to backpedal and then kind of said, like, well, yeah, I said that, but, you know, people were mad, so whatever. Anyway, so Brandon Johnson just beat Paul Vallis, thankfully.
Wait, did you just call him Bernie Johnson?
Brandon Johnson? Brandon Johnson. I might have misspoken.
For a second you said, yeah, no, that's just hilarious. I knew
Bernie actually,
but I was like, that's
Bernie endorsed him and came here just a week ago, or I'm sorry, a week prior to the election. The election's already a week ago, so I guess like 2 weeks ago. And they had a rally of 5,000 people. And, you know, Bernie bump aside, I've never seen a rally for mayor of 5,000 people before. At least not in any city I've lived in. So, yeah. So Dick Durbin.
Lucky if you get 5,000 people to vote for a mayor.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, of course, all the police flipped out and they said if Brandon Johnson gets elected, the president of the FOP said that 80% of the police force would quit if Brandon Johnson was elected.
Yes! Elect him! Yes!
Right, it's like, all right, what are you waiting for?
Right. And I'm like, how much of a bump did that give him alone?
Yeah, seriously. Hell, you got my vote.
Right?
That's awesome.
But that's the thing, right? Is because I remember seeing that on Twitter and that they were like, oh, if he gets elected, like this amount of like police are going to be quitting. And it's like, have they actually quit? Or did
Of course not. Of course. Well, first he said 80%. Then he said, well, no, I meant like, 80% of new hires. And then it was like, well, it'll be about 1,000 police quit. And it's just like, stop threatening us with a good time, man. Come on.
Yeah, seriously. Do you promise? I just think it's hilarious when like anyone in politics goes by the name Dick. Like, why would you choose that name? Like, why?
To be fair, it's kind of a generational thing, right? Like boomers, I feel like don't have quite the same. I don't know.
There's a guy named Richard Neal that we protested for and for all, and I came up with the slogan "Don't be a dick, Neal," and it kind of was awesome. But I'm like, Dick Durbin. That sounds like a fucking porn star. Don't tell me it doesn't.
It does. It sounds like Dirk Diggler, doesn't it?
Exactly. Dirk Diggler. Oh my god. This is what happens on our show all the time. I didn't even say that's what she said once until now. Andrew, what else do you got? Oh yeah, this one. So you guys, this does loosely pertain to sexual assault. Nothing graphic, but just as a trigger warning. Would you like to read this, Andrew?
Iowa Attorney General halts payments for rape victims, contraceptives, abortions.
Do you want to read a little?
Des Moines, Iowa. The Iowa Attorney General's office has paused its practice of paying for emergency contraception and, in rare cases, abortions for victims of sexual assault, a move that drew criticism from some victim advocates. Federal regulations and state law require Iowa to pay many of the expenses for sexual assault victims who seek medical help, such as the costs of forensic exams and treatment for sexually transmitted infections. Under the previous Attorney General, Democrat Tom Miller, Iowa's Victim Compensation Fund also paid for Plan B, the so-called morning after pill, as well as other victims to prevent pregnancy. You want me to keep going?
No, that's okay. I think that's a good synopsis. So I've shared articles in the past that have given, accounts of how, people who have been sexually assaulted have been charged for emergency room visits, for rape kits, for everything. And so people who are victimized due to no choice of their own are then getting billed for it. And that's exactly what they are doing now. And that happens in a lot of states. So now Iowa is now trying to make that happen there. So I cannot fathom being a victim of that and then going and then being like, okay, this plan B is going to cost $300 though, or how many people are then not going to be able to then get a rape kit? So you're discouraged. It's bad enough people don't come forward enough, but now you're discouraging people even more because I don't have money to pay for this rape kit. Why would I go? I can't afford it. So now, I guess I don't matter. Like, get over it.
Not that this should be any worse. Like if the male attorney general was pushing this audit review, but just the fact that their attorney general Brennan Byrd, who is doing this audit to review this use of public funds, that could put a stop to this. Just the fact that it's a woman doing it, kind of like you're just like, what the fuck? Like, where's your fucking humanity? I mean, I shouldn't say it like that because it should be the same. It should be where's your humanity regardless. But there's the fact that it's a woman pushing this.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like what the fuck.
There is a severe lack of empathy, and I feel that too as a woman. I'm like, you're a woman. How? It should be this obvious for everyone, but especially a woman. I feel a lot about parents when I read stories about kids too. I'm like, you're a parent. Why would you do that? So yeah, there's complete lack of empathy. So, people want to say, well, why don't they report it? Well, here's another reason why. Absolutely just unforgivable. Andrew, what was your response?
I mean, unfortunately, it's not that surprising. Just the fact that, there's very little empathy for this type of stuff. It's not a priority. And particularly, I mean, I think it's just in terms of abortion rights being stripped as well. This kind of goes in line with this a lot, right? Where it's it's, they're against contraception at all. So it's like, why would we pay for your contraception? It all just is. I mean, it all just intersects with just misogyny and sexism right then and there bundled into one. So it's part of the women movement, essentially.
I have a quote here real quick, if you don't mind, from the press secretary of the Attorney General. As part of her top-down, bottom-up audit of victims' assistance, Attorney General Byrd is carefully evaluating whether this is an appropriate use of public funds. Byrd Press Secretary Aislinn Roylett said in a statement, quote, "Until that review is complete, payment of these pending claims will be delayed." So if the audit isn't even complete, why are they being canceled? Why are these payments being canceled? If you conclude that, the state of Iowa paying for the rape kits of alleged rape victims is not a good use of public funds, even if you conclude that that's somehow ethical or logical, why would you cancel those payments until that audit was complete? There's just something cartoonishly villainous about that level of lack of empathy.
Yeah, that's a good point. Absolutely. Andrew, did we have any others or just the funny?
I think just the funny.
We always end on a funny because we cover some really heavy stuff, and people always tell us to end.
Yeah, I do the same thing on my show. Like, I got to have something funny to end with, because otherwise...
Right, otherwise it's just kind of awkward, because it's just like, all right, yeah, the world sucks. All right, see you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to the Doomcast, everyone.
Yeah, seriously. I forgot what I gave for a funny this week. Pull it up.
Yeah, so you'll be surprised too. All right, give me 1 second. It's coming. We can do a little drum roll.
That's what she said.
Yeah, it's quite.
I make it all show.
Yeah, there it is. There's the drum roll.
New York Post. It's funny already.
It's blank.
I know, right? Oh yes, now I remember.
It's nothing. Oh my God! Virgin Mary statue goes up in flames during Easter parade is onlookers scream.
Where did this happen?
Yo, that's.
I think it was Spain.
Let's look.
Oh yeah, they would definitely scream there about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was to Spain. Yeah. All right, it injured 2 people, so I guess that's not funny.
I mean,
the screaming or the flames? Which was the injury from?
There's like a stigmata over in the right, and isn't the video coming up?
Oh yeah, it's not really loading.
Damn it! Gracias, Jesus.
Okay. Yeah, it's not buffering. It doesn't want to show us this. I don't see the flames too much in this picture, but they do look very stressed. Oh, there it is. Wow. Yeah, so
I mean, I already know I'm going to hell. That's why I put that as the funny, because I'm like, I mean, I'm sorry, that shit's funny.
I mean, it's the crowd reaction that's the funny
part. I hope
part,
the people are okay.
I work with all Spanish women, so like we just talk Spanish all day, and I could just hear them being like, el carajo, ay Dios mío. Like, I can just picture it. It would be amazing. Poor Mary, why you bugging?
So, does anyone know how the fire started? Is that included in the article at all, or no? It's just an act of God, apparently.
It was like, how dare you have a parade? Bananas. Andrew, do you see any? It looked like someone gave a super chat earlier. It was pink. I couldn't read what it said.
Catherine Tokarska, $10 super sticker.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Real Progress appreciates that. Thank you so much. I think there was another one, unless I'm hallucinating.
That was the only one I saw.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, on that note, please, this is not my channel. My channel is, this streams on my channel as well. But this is the only day I'm over here. Please subscribe to my individual channel as well, Savage Joy Marie Man. That's YouTube and Rockfin. And I do have a Patreon as well. And I am going to start really needing donations to do this action in East Palestine. So my Patreon is as little as $3 a month. And it helps me with my streaming fees and also, doing my actions. So next week we have Monday show. I did just start a TikTok. Please subscribe. I've been doing videos pretty much every day. So please subscribe to that. And I have some really awesome guests coming up, but they're to be announced. So I have not, until I get a solidified date, I won't be sharing. Comrade Dracula, what do you have going on?
I mean, I got a broken arm, so not much. It was 75 degrees in Chicago today, and the fact that I can't ride my fucking bike right now is driving me crazy. But check out our podcast. We record just like once a week. It's audio only. Over on Twitter at Move Left Pod. Me and my host Anthony, we talk about socialist shit, but we also talk about kind of just current events through a socialist lens. So again, Twitter at Move Left Pod.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining. And Andrew, what do you have going on?
Not too much. Yeah.
You always say that. Oh, and also thank you guys so much for the messages about my new diagnosis and treatments and all that shit. Like, it really means a lot. I'm going through a lot right now, so I appreciate all the love. I really, really do. So yeah, we will see you guys next Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Although I will probably go live at least once on my individual channel this week. And also I am very close to 5,000 subscribers on Rockfin. So yeah, click that shit.
One more thing I wanted to say. I noticed your chat here. I haven't used this port before, but I noticed Vegan Succubus was commenting a lot. Just wanted to say real quick, Vegan Succubus, I myself am a vegan of 13 years, so thumbs up.
Nice. A lot of you Chicago people are.
Yeah, it's like a dichotomy. Either you're into like the Polish sausage, deep dish fucking cholesterol bomb diabetes pizzas, or it's like, you know, Upton's Naturals soy riso. Like it's the very split cuisine here in Chicago.
Yes, I noticed that. I tried vegan food for the first time in Chicago, actually, and it was really yummy.
Yeah. So, but how often do you get out here?
I've been out a few times, not too much, but I'll definitely hit you up next time I go for sure.
Please do. Yeah, I mean, I because of COVID for the last couple of years, like I haven't had a lot of friends come visit the city, but if you ever do, definitely hit me up.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much again for watching, you guys, and much love.